Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to pre-order upcoming Force of Will sets, ccgprime.com for singles and supplies, cardodoco.com for those rulers in the international market looking for product, as well as our guest lecturer members Vite Ramen and Full Grammar Alchemist. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast. It's Office Hours, featuring myself, DMO73, and I'm joined, as always, by the lovely Paul Reisman.
I'm lovely.
And the sensational dancer, Michael Rantz.
Everybody in chat, do the wave! Woo!
That means that's the Shayla emote, probably, right? Because waves is water. So, like,
Yeah.
That works. Welcome. So glad you are all here in the off season of off seasons. We are here to talk about all things FOW. Just a few pieces of note. You can go ahead and get your pre-orders for the next set, Journey to Revidra, down below. Odyssey has those pre-orders up for both pre-release kits and starter and booster boxes, though I will remind people that if you want ATD cards and you are not going to Worlds, you need to buy boxes, because boxes of Journey to Revidra is where the packs of ATD will be located. So buy boxes. Just as a heads up, just giving a reminder, go do that.
Box.
Sounds a lot like Fox. Fox.
Everything's a fox!
You notice that Holsheiser still isn't here.
Yeah, that's true. Although I did talk to him earlier today, so he's
Okay.
alive. He's alive. Holsheiser's alive. Can't confirm.
He's back from his stint in the
What you
hospital
doing,
after
Holsheiser?
being
It's just
driven
every
into a
time I
drunken stupor.
every time I mention Fox, Holsheiser has to take a drink,
He's gotta-
apparently. So also some few things today, just as some notes. I just have a question for the chat. How y'all been liking all those shorts that we started to do? We mentioned a couple weeks ago that we wanted to really expand our content here, and Paul and I have been trying hard for it. We've been starting to do ruler recap. We've been starting to do breakdowns of how things went at locals, as well as some like pack openings. We did kind of a little short announcing the feature match for the week on Wednesday to kind of like, hey, get into your feed and remind you to go watch it. And we've been doing the ruler rundown, where we go through every single Force of Will ruler and rate it based on its iconic elements and its competitive success. Can you tell I've been practicing the intro for that short a lot?
A little bit. So we've already run into one problem with our series. Jeremy, I have all the promos at both of the locals I attend.
That's okay.
So I only have packs to open.
That's okay. I keep grabbing promos just to throw in my trade binder. I've also considered trying to update that. I've seen this very cool thing that's been done by some pack openers where they say, we're going to try to open these packs hitting a specific card, and if we don't, we're going to mail all of the cards that we open to a winner. So like every single short becomes kind of a raffle if you interact with it. Is that something people would be interested in? I kind of wouldn't mind doing that. It's, we probably wouldn't mail those cards like in a padded envelope. We'd probably like mail them in just like a regular envelope somehow. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a smaller padded envelope, but that's an interesting idea of doing it. I love gambling. Yeah, it's kind of like if we like this week I tried to hit a regalia beast and proceeded to hit a full art Oborozuki and went, dang, that's not a regalia beast, but nice pull. Something that might be fun, but might have some front-loaded research is going through notable matches at GPs and Worlds. Maybe historical elements. That might be an interesting idea. Run back of some historical favorites. Interesting. Go through some drama, some drama-filled matches. Can I go find the Worlds footage?
Rasu's floor site.
No, we're not going to talk about that one.
Oh no!
We're not going to talk about that. So
go to Vegas. Stay
so,
in Vegas.
Yeah. So yeah, we started doing those. We did have the first episode for members only. If you're not a member of the channel, of the new
Become one.
All-Nighter series. That has been actually pretty fun. I just finished exporting the one for Symphony Stun, and there's a vote post up now on the community tab of who we're going to do next. That has been really fun to do, playing on Tabletop Simulator. So if you're not a member, you should consider joining the channel as a membership, because you can get access to that video exclusively. And then we also started... it'll be posted probably tomorrow, the first episode of Guess the Rework with Ryan F. and Miles. He's back. We started
He's
going.
back.
We are going through
I'm
the.
alone.
We are going through the reworking protocol cards, talking about why they got banned, and Ryan is trying his best to guess what they did to bring it off the ban list, and reacting to how they updated those cards. That's a pretty cool video. So that was a lot of what we've been doing. And I'm hearing, it looks like in the chat, that you guys are liking what we're doing so far. And the YouTube algorithm seems to like it. So we'll keep doing it. Also, I just noticed today that YouTube has been putting mid-roll ads on all of my videos every 3 minutes. So that's been turned off for the foreseeable future. So
Thank you.
No more of that will be happening. I'm not going to go
Jeremy, I
back
don't watch
and...
you for the
Hymns.
Jeremy, I don't watch you for the content you put out. I watch you for the ads.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yes, we have permanently turned off that feature, so that is not going to be happening anymore. So we did
Stop watching if you don't want to lose 30 pounds with this pink Himalayan salt trick. God. Oh.
So we do have
Expertate him.
So before we go into some topics, tonight's, as the title suggests, it's Variety Hour. We have some topics kind of brought up. We've got some news to come up, but we're welcome to talk to anything about you guys have in the chat that you might want to hit up, because we're still waiting on like spoiler season to start for Vidra and stuff, and obviously leading up to Worlds. But we did have some news, just some clarification pieces that we just want to go over. You can obviously find this article on the Force of Will TCG website. I encourage you to go read it. Just some updating pieces here. I'm going to slide this up so that we can see. Oh, it slid weirdly. We'll do this. There we go. So just some clarifications on Makoto Cloth Corp's Ritualist. Just talking about how essentially each player, no matter how many Cloth Corps they own on their side of the field, can only ever tax things 2 times, which means the maximum possible tax is 4 if both players have 2 Makoto Cloth Corp's Ritualists. Just keep that in mind. I don't think I've ever seen that board state, but sure, there you go. That's possible. It breaks it down.
It's going to come up more now. It's going to come up all the time.
Clarified Manifested Paradoxical Maiden specifically talked about how even an enter ability, though it's triggered automatically, is still considered played. So Manifested Paradoxical Maiden stops enters. So that's neat. Flute stop and enter effects of specific cards. So that's an interesting element. Reika is clarified to not immediately reanimate when she is sacked to Fox, and it makes me sad, but reasonable and understandable. She's still insanely good for the deck. And then there was a clarification of cards with automatic abilities that trigger from hidden areas. Specifically, this idea of, even though it's not considered, they are updating the CR to clarify their element here. Just that, like, those things that you're triggering in hand, even though they don't say reveal, you still have to show them to your opponent, and they stay shown until the ability finishes resolving. So there's no, like, failing to find. They just kind of clarified that. That's how we've been playing Larinka and Carlina and everything else when we've been playing and testing. This was just a clarification and updating the CR to kind of make that more specific. Lunar Protective Lifeform has been given a clarification errata. It does absolutely nothing to function differently. Just specifically now says remove target attacking or blocking non-golem resonator from battle. There was an element at a GP where someone was trying to use Lunar Protective before recovery, because it's like, well, you're removing that resonator from battle. And it's like, it's not actually in battle yet because it has to be attacking or blocking. Let's just update the card. Sure. And then Tsukihime Gears Princess of the Moon also got an errata, which is very funny. The original version of the text granted the +1,000 to your board if you had 6 treasury items. The ABC printing of the card got rid of the clause that tied the +1,000 to having the 6 things. So for a time being, we all could have just been playing Tsukihime and giving our boards +10 every single turn and weren't. But they clearly didn't want that to be how that worked. So they errataed her and clarified, no, it doesn't work that way. You have to have 6 to be able to get the board bump. So just a few little pieces that came up this week. Just wanted to make people aware of those. In general, the ore blocking is big. I mean, it was already... you could already remove a blocking resonator from battle, I believe, with Lunar Protective, because it was remove target non-golem from battle, so you could remove a blocker with it. They're just, again, clarifying how the card functions. So,
like, you could essentially do the same thing with Scarlet's Agony back in, like, Rare Cluster days, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, little changes there, just for clarification's sake. Nothing really... Lots of changes that are just clarifying intent. Yeah, absolutely. Like, just like, hey, English isn't our first language necessarily. Let's update some text to make sure our intent on these is very clear.
Yeah.
I get that. I respect it.
Which, all things said and done, like, I didn't even notice the Tsukihime thing.
Yeah.
Like, you meant, like, I didn't even recognize, like, that's how that was ordered. Like, I just assumed their intent with the language.
Because the original one worked that way, right? So, like, the original one worked that way. Tsukihime wasn't on the ABC updated text list because they listed all of the errataed ABC cards. So none of us thought, oh, the text of Tsukihime must be different. And then someone realized, oh, the ABC text of Tsukihime is different. So shout outs to who spotted that and made the company aware.
Good job, guys.
The only difference is you can no longer remove an attacked thing.
So, like, if you are attacking a resonator...
Oh, I can't, like, remove my attacked resonator from combat to save it. I guess, yeah, that's fair. I guess that is a niche buff. Nerf? Maybe a nerf? Because,
it's enough.
Because if the opponent's resonator attacking your thing has barrier, you can't, like, now remove your resonator from combat to save it, I guess, because you couldn't target the other resonator. I guess that's, in some ways, I guess that's a clarifying nerf slightly for those fringe cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slight functional nerf, very tiny.
Which means it's totally unplayable. We can no longer play Lunar Protective.
Can't play Lunar Protective. Card's bad.
Correct.
Card's bad. Put it in the trash.
Card's automatically bad.
Unplayable.
Burn your copies. Don't burn your copies. Don't burn them. Don't do it.
Just kidding. It's totally fine.
It's still a very good card.
It's still a very good card. It is still a very good card. So we have some, like I said, tonight's kind of an open mic night a little bit. We are in that slow season. We're waiting on Journey to review your spoilers to start. We had that news to come up. We just had our Ruler School circuit this past weekend. We had 19 players. Technically, 18 people showed up because one person had to drop last minute. We're not going to do a tournament report on it, and the main reason we are going to post the lists, though, we'll do it as a community post here, primarily because the format doesn't exist anymore. Because it was Paradox pre-ATD, which means, like, in the span of 2 weeks, that format goes away, essentially. But we just wanted to have some fun, and we didn't want to have people bother with trying to figure out how to proxy ATT cards. So a lot of people came with Leica, and the top 4 was Leica, and Val 3. Val 3. And the finals was Leica versus Val 3, and Leica won. So people played Leica. It was the most represented deck, and it did really well. Who would have thought?
They sure do like her.
It's a good joke.
You did it. You did it.
You did it.
Yay!
Yay! So we have I do wanna say that some people like I think part of it too, why the spread was what it was, is because it's also just kind of like people just kind of had specific decks kind of either already built or like didn't have the cards for the decks they wanted to actually play. I know for a fact that Ayush was pretty close to playing Fox, and then his stuff didn't show up in time, so he couldn't. So like,
Yeah.
again, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm not really caring about the results of this event in terms of meta influence because it's a meta that exists for all of 2 seconds. So like, let him have fun. Let him have fun. Although I do have to shout out Jeremy Lindley for apparently playing the entire day with the wrong Wu Jia Wu sub-ruler, and we caught it going into top 4.
Let's go.
So he got a game loss, but then Ayush just conceded to him because Ayush had given him his own deck list for Leica, so the game loss didn't matter. But I did get to kind of go full circle because at one point in time in my life competitively, Aaron Miles was at, I think it was an Ohio GP. I was playing Prisia, and I got deck checked, and everything came back, and it took a while. And then Aaron Miles came back and went, "Hey, Jeremy, you get a game loss," because my deck list, it didn't have a ruler written on it, even though I was clearly playing Prisia and it was the only ruler in my deck box. So I thought it was very funny that I got to go up to Jeremy Lindley on camera and go, "Hey, Jeremy, you get a game loss for an illegal deck." It was fun for me.
Good times had by all except for Jeremy Lindley in that exact moment.
Except for Jeremy Lindley in that exact moment. So, let's talk about some of these topics here. Paul, you brought up some for us here.
Yeah.
What I like this one. What cluster would make the best anime anthology?
And so we need the chat to weigh in on this as well, because this is now. I think this is a big piece of discussion. And like, if you don't want it to be an anime, if you wanna pitch a manga instead, or like a short novel, whatever. But I'm deep in Force of Will lore right now. Like I am reviewing tons of different stuff in Force of Will, and I'm just like, which of these things would be interesting to like either watch or read in long form prose, etc. 100% Evil Cluster. Well, sure.
We only have one of the
one of the sets.
Listen here, Alejandro.
We have 1.15 sets of this cluster.
I feel like Alejandro knows something that we don't know, and I wonder.
I honestly think it's Raya Cluster. I think the story.
I was literally about to say Raya Cluster.
I was thinking Raya.
I had a huge hand in helping with the English localization of. I know I said it on accident. But the English, I had a huge hand at the English localization of Raya Cluster, so I got to really be deep in that story, kind of like as it was being written, written out. And I just remember really loving that story and thinking about like seeing it play out in my head and all the different cast of characters and how it could really build as a series. I just think the story of Raya Cluster is very, very cool. I understand that there's the convoluted elements of time travel that lead into Raya Cluster and take us out of Raya Cluster, right? Like the setup to Raya Cluster and the jumping into New Valhalla Cluster. I get that part's complicated, but if you cut those two parts of it off and you're just bookend it, Raya Cluster, I think it would flow really nicely as a very cool story, visual story element. That would be very fun.
I was actually thinking about how would we fix and clarify the elements of Raya Cluster that people found really confusing, because y'all will see in a couple of weeks because I've been doing some work behind the scenes. But I've been doing a lot of journeying into the concepts of time in Force of Will, and I think Rhea Cluster has some of the coolest ideas around time, how it works, time travel that I've seen in a lot of media, right? Um, and so I don't want to spoil what's coming down the pipe for y'all.
Sure.
But I think the elements of time could be easily clarified by just
Yeah.
um like additional dialogue, right? Like having some sort of like producer step in and say like this element seems really confusing. We need to make sure that we have characters that are explaining what's going on. Like
Yes.
we need to help clarify like what Flute's powers are. We need to help people understand like how time flows and how time works in this world compared to like other media. And so if we got some like intentional like world building in that space, it'd be really interesting, I
Also,
think.
there's also this element of the classic anime trope of the villain who's trying to be beat, right? I think of even like back to, or like the villain who was previously a good guy but is just kind of like trying to motivate people. That's a pretty common anime trope. Like look at the entirety of Code Geass, right? Like Lelouch is trying to be a dick to try to be the one who gets punished to free everybody else, right? Or Gurren Lagann, right? The Spiral King is trying to do all of this stuff to protect humanity. And so, like, the back half of the series is like, oh, the real evil is suddenly unleashed. And I just think about this idea of, like, if you think about it in series of, like, an arc of an anime, right? Like, season
Mhm.
1 could be everything leading up to the fight with Rhea, and then the end of the season is then like suddenly the cracks forming of like what Rhea is actually trying to do, and like the time spinning which shit shows up, and that leaves you cliffhanger into season 2. And then like the first episode of season 2 would be like Rhea explaining everything to Gil, right? Explaining to him the history of it as like a kind of like launch point into the second. Like it could flow really well as like a 2-season anime that I think would be really cool to watch.
I know exactly how. I think it's only 2 seasons,
Yeah, agreed.
personally.
100%.
I think how you end season 2 is it's just the like all the kids in like what is it, Epic of the Thousandth Night, like
Mhm.
all the reincarnated kids just like like that, and it's just
Sherry
I forget
closes
who's
the
telling
book.
that story.
Yeah, Sherry closing the book.
Just like there you go.
Yeah.
Um
Either that or it ends with like the ending is like a cutaway as Rhea and Gil like set off on their new adventure together, and that's kind of like
mhm.
where you end it, right? Like it
um
bookends nicely,
yeah.
I think.
Or like I mean, you could just have like a vignette of like, okay, so Kaguya and Alice are like encountering Adam and they're jumping off. The kids are being told the story and like, but what happened to Gil and Rhea? Well, they went off and did this thing.
And this
Um,
kid's How I Met Your Mother. Spins off into an entire sitcom. Can we get a forcible sitcom set?
8 seasons in a movie.
it's just Friends, and it's just like the promotional art for Rhea set 1. Friends.
No, the promotional artwork for Ray, it just says, so no one told you life was going to be this way.
Crazy.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's why I'm the most excited. I mean, like I'll keep
Yeah.
coming back to this, but it's why I'm the most excited for the prospect that the next masterpiece cluster is Rhea, because in many ways, Rhea cluster was a fully standalone cluster in many ways, in terms of like there was so little carryover from the previous cluster into Rhea. Like, Grim fed directly into Alice, fed directly into Lapis, right? And then the time spinning witch side of it fed into Rhea. But like, from the jump, Rhea cluster was a completely new cast of characters. Like, these were all people that we had no inclination that these people existed before. And so that, to me, was something that was really special about Rhea cluster, because like, the only real connection we had to anything was Kid Pandora. That was it. Everybody else was brand new. And it was like,
well, in the Gil connection, it was like, okay,
Gil?
Who is that?
Yeah, exactly. It was
Gil?
like Gil, yeah.
That sounds familiar.
But it was just, yeah. It was so, I don't know. There was just something about Rhea cluster that like connected with me so much. So I would really like to see that.
Sure, I see what you mean in terms of like, yeah, Grim was definitely part one of a trilogy,
right?
That ended with Lapis, and so getting that sort of like that, honestly, in a lot of ways, that's kind of where like the sets starting to feel more like a standalone set of things.
Yeah.
Like New Valhalla felt very standalone. I mean, we had like returning characters, but it was just like, oh, okay, so like, if you know, right?
Right.
But like, this is a new series. And that kind of carried through in Dual Cluster in some ways, right? But anyway, I've been yapping. Mike, you tell me more about why you think Rhea is the perfect like anime anthology.
I think the main characters of Rhea Cluster fit very well into the anime, like not an ensemble cast, but a nice like tight knit like cast of characters. Like, you're not going to get like the sweeping ensemble like in Naruto or something like that, but you're going to get the core elements. You're going to get, your Brainiac. You're going to get somebody who's a little more, power not power hungry, but like, thank you, Jeremy, very good. It's just like they fit a lot of those archetypes. It's the commedia dell'arte of Force of Will. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
And
it's the commedia. It's the commedia dell'arte.
Very clearly, you can tell that it's the commedia dell'arte. And everybody in chat knows that it's the commedia dell'arte.
Yeah, for sure, 100%, for sure.
Oh,
everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Lord. And how could we forget? I mean, the best character is in that. It's Shayla.
I mean, the best character is Rhea, so we're good.
Why are you saying Shayla so strange? Anyway, but as soon as you get the time splitting witch, like, you kind of need like some context as to like who these like corrupted versions of like Scheherazade and Nyarlathotep and Lumia, like that's where like the real tragedy of those characters really comes in, because they're like totally inverted and like totally subsumed by the time spinning witch, which is kind of crazy. Like, Scheherazade is like, by all accounts, like one of the strongest characters magically in all of Force of Will, and she's weaker than time
in gameplay.
Yeah, and in actual gameplay, yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's why I'm thinking like, the 2-season thing with like a holiday special kind of in between the 2 seasons. That's like the like. Well, they do that sometimes, like an OVA, right? Like, so you have like,
what's the beach episode?
Like season one, then you have like the mid-season, like the between season OVA, which is like it's the beach episode, and it's the historical setup of everything leading into the time spinning witch. Like, that's and the 2-part OVA, and then season 2,
the fireworks,
and then season 2. So like, that's fine.
I mean, like, and this beach episode will be defining for this anime anthology, because it's the one that is not trying to get you to look at the girls. It's the one that's trying to get you to look at the guys.
Yeah,
right?
Look at that.
So like, we're gonna get all of the force of women in here.
Kira a speedo, baby. Kira a speedo.
Yeah. There's just so much to the story of Fow that I think it could be told in so many different ways that would love to see eventually be done. So it's cool that there's a project going on, at least for Paul, to like go over the timeline historical elements, because it is such a cool story. It's been really fun. I can't wait to see what the rest of Hero Cluster brings. Hero Cluster also feels like it's setting itself up to be a very cool like anime kind of vibe as well. I just want to
Oh
see.
yeah.
I want to see more of it too. Next up, we had the question of what do we wish was supported in ATD that wasn't?
Mm.
That's
I
a good
asked this question with no answer.
with no answer.
I
So
asked this with no answer in mind.
I'll look specifically at the Wanderer cards. Like I'll go in that general area. Um, at, it's hard for me to answer that question because of the fact that I the very nature of ATD is that it's supposed to be like one thing from each of the realms, right? But it's also like Rhea. Again, I'm coming back to Rhea Cluster. I feel very confident that next masterpiece is Rhea Cluster, so I'm not gonna say like, oh, I wish more Rhea Cluster stuff was supported, because Rhea Cluster is kind of the one cluster that's kind of absent from ATD a little bit. Like we got a little bit of Fairer, but it's because like the Fairer Letaliels like left and kind of abandoned their dimension. Um, I do kind of wish going into the realms, there is an element of me that wishes order decks had gotten something. Kind of. We kind of got something for order decks, but it's like exclusively the Olympians, right? They were like, because it's the Olympian package got support from Dual Cluster, but not order in general. Um, power balancing that would be tricky. Like figuring out what one card he would do to orders feels tricky. But that is to me of the area of like that would have been maybe nice to see. That being said, I really like all the Wanderer cards. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Odin got support. Yeah, Odin got
support.
support. Yeah, that's fair. But like again,
and I will say, Vafthrûdnir was not like this cracked piece of support. He was really just like, here's more of what the deck can do if you need it to, but
right.
It's not gonna like make Odin suddenly more than what he already was, right?
Right.
And Loki got a card technically, not necessarily order Loki, but it can really do well in order Loki. I'm actually building something with that right now.
Ooh. I think there's this piece to me where like I'm thinking about a card like Scrivener, right? Like Scrivener was
something that has broad application.
Yes,
right.
That's what I'm talking about. Like the idea of a broad application card for the order concept, I think would have been nice. Would have been something that could have been explored. I don't know what the power balancing of that is, right? Like I don't know how you possibly balance that appropriately, but it was just something to kind of think about. I do think that ATD, the intention of ATD for Wanderer and the execution of ATD, while there are some scary things in ATD, is I think it's a very neat application and concept. So I hope they do try to do something similar to that in the future.
It felt like a lot of the ATD cards were like, we want to give each dimension something.
Yeah.
To like, and it'll have broader applications, but we want to give like each dimension a card that kind of represents like what that playstyle might be if we were to support that in the future. I keep going back to the original Alice cluster because even though we got like additional Alice content, quote unquote, in Alice Origins, and we got like a little bit of sprinkling of like, oh, Alice can like tag with Tina and stuff like that, and we got the Seven Kings with Lenneth, and there's something to be said about the like, yeah, but those like older rulers outside of like Machina, like Machina got like a huge piece of support. Outside of like that, I'm still not entirely sure what those rulers can do, right? Like,
Yeah.
like something for
Classic Alice
Valkyrie
cluster.
Alice.
Yeah, classic Alice cluster
Um,
rulers have like with the new regalia that have been reduced, those all work really well for the Alice Origins rulers because they all want regalia to hit the board to then trigger. The original
yeah.
Alice cluster rulers have not received that much love. They've been kind of brought up tangentially to be kind of like sideways support to things that they were more the support pieces for the new cards, but they themselves haven't really gotten much. Arguably, one could say that Valentina 1 every single time gets a 2-cost water resonator, gets something, but like, is that enough
Yeah.
for her? Kind of right? That's not necessarily specifically for her. So I get that for sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot of rulers that were just kind of like left behind in that design process because it was a different era of design philosophy. So
Yeah.
Blazer Gil Rebus deserves an extension rule.
Don't hate that.
Yeah.
Blazer
Honestly,
plus Sylvia, all your stones can produce red and green. So you just
love that.
playing with the two of them.
Blazer plus. Not even Blazer Plus. Just have a thing where it taps treat target resonator as a J ruler for the turn.
So that he can flip.
How about that?
That'd be
How
good.
So
about
you can
that?
flip and
Easy.
pop.
And kill something.
I like it. I or like if you could gain imperishable in some way, natively, that'd be nice.
Flip, like make him repeatable.
Yeah. I mean, I remember getting into the game and like being just so enthralled by the character design of Blazer. Like even today, like Blazer is like low key like one of my favorite characters that I thought got killed off way too soon.
He's a robot now. He's a robot.
He's a robot who was a thief, who was a clown,
who was a dragon.
Was also a dragon at the same time as being a clown.
Yeah.
And now he's a robot.
Now he's a robot.
Yeah, very wild. That being said, like having like a Deadpool style like anti-hero Blazer, like almost like an anti-villain style like Blazer like anime comedy would be very fun.
That is very silly.
I just like the Archthief Blazer from what was it?
The beginning of every turn draw card.
That's such a fun thing.
Or
and
the 4-drop that could peek at your opponent's hand and rip a card. Ugh. That promo is so good. That promo art for that card is so good. So bright and shiny. I love it.
We need more pre-clown Blazer. I'm just putting that out there.
It's true.
Blazer Origin format. Blazer Cluster. Let's go.
Blazer Cluster. Let's go. It's just 4 sets of just 7 different versions of Blazer. Every ruler is just Blazer Guild.
I feel like we never really got into the fact that Blazer was a dragon and a clown. What if we just bring him back from the dead as a zombie dragon clown in a horror themed set?
Here's the thing. Here's the real joke. Blazer lives on. And eventually we're going to get a card that is a fusion of Ryzen and Intel, and they just become Blazer. That he's just been hiding as Ryzen and Intel for Electra, and they're going to fuse together and get Blazer again.
That'd be kind of interesting.
That'd be kind of sick.
Make them
fuse together and become NVIDIA. The Great Clown.
Right. The Great Clown Blazer.
No, the Great Clown NVIDIA. Spelled differently. Don't worry.
God.
The spelling's different. Legally distinct.
By one letter. Legally distinct.
It's
spelled correctly.
It's NYVDEA.
There we go. Yeah, make it a little fantastic. Thank you, Jeremy. Very good.
Amazing. Oh my gosh.
N-YVDEA.
Mike, tell us what more support you would want to see in a set like this, because I think ATD is a really cool idea, and I want to see more of it. What do you want to see more of? What would make you excited?
Listen, y'all know that I'm a big fan of legacy support, but I'm also a big fan of legacy support, not just for rulers, but for card types, mechanics. I want to see cool things happen. Seeing Ambush was really cool. I liked that. I liked the idea of stealth coming back in a very interesting and different way. legally distinct from what it
Legally
was.
distinct.
Distinct. But I'm just like off the rip. Like personally speaking, funny speaking, I want fruit support for Fruits of Yggdrasil.
Fruit.
So that's just me. That's just a personal opinion on my end of things.
Can't have scurvy.
But take it scurvy if you're playing that deck, man. It's fine.
Scurvy the Orange Barbarian. Let's go.
Yeah. But no, here's the thing. Paul, you brought up Alice, like Fairy Alice, and the fact that she got paired up with what's
Tina.
her face? I don't remember. Thank
Tina.
you. I don't remember Hero Cluster. But that kind of so I'm gonna muse for a moment here. Speaking of which, muse, Shion support, please. Thank you. Anyway, back to what we were talking about.
Now we're talking. Now we're cooking.
Now we're cooking gas. So more fairy support that isn't just like printing fairy on a card that just kind of exists. Because Twilight Wanderer fairies like were very, very cool. And I think I like the fact that they played off each other to a point where you didn't, if you wanted to go fairy tribal with Alice, you didn't need to go like all in on the Alice flip. You just had the fairies on board.
Right.
And they did things. And Vivian was a house of a card that if you started to combo her and built up your board, she could just kill somebody.
Yeah.
And that was a really neat way to go about it. So I kind of want to see more go wide fairy support that really incentivizes the old style of play that the fairies did.
Joe brings up the idea of seeing Ascended rulers return for unplayed or underplayed rulers, but make them box toppers. Similarly to how the Memoria collections during the rework protocol period had like the updated text and you got a random ruler, making it there's like 2 or 3 different Ascended rulers in a pool per set, and you could get those. That would be interesting to me. I think that's an interesting application.
Is it better or worse in your guys' opinion, and everybody in chat, is that a better or worse way to fix up older rulers than an extension rule for a single ruler that doesn't grant tag?
So I think it's a little bit a different element, right? I think there's an element of it's the spirit of the upgrade and it's about ease of access, right? If it's a box topper element, making it an Ascended ruler, I think makes the most sense, because if it's just an extension rule, then what if that person doesn't own the old ruler? Then you're kind of out of luck, right? You got the extension rule giving the extra text to them, but you don't have the ruler, so you're out of luck. Whereas if it's an extension rule that isn't granting tag, there's not really an inherent like value to it being an extension rule versus just being an Ascended ruler. For instance, the pacts for the new rulers come with them deck building restrictions. Most extension rules carry with them some form of like deck building element restriction. Not all of them, most of them. They change how deck building works. Whereas an Ascension ruler is just, we're just powering up this ruler with no like deck building restrictions. So I think if you're going for doing Ascension or like doing unplayed or underplayed ruler updates, I think it makes more sense as a box topper to do like an Ascension, right? And there are some that are so easy to do, right? We're going to come back to this almost every single time we talk about this. Let's talk about CL, right? Like,
yeah,
like she have to again.
she would be honestly very easy to ascend. Probably what you would do is you would make it on her front side so that she had some natural built-in protection for auras, where like while she was on her front side, auras you control cannot be targeted or removed from the game by like it while in graveyard. Like give her a like Dark Alice protection effect like on her ruler side, so that like she's a graveyard respected deck, she wants to be playing them, it takes her time to build them up, so it builds it so that like she doesn't have to worry about also taking the time to protect those spells, right? And then you on your backside you let her create a bunch of different triggers where it's like based on the number of things she has, she gets this many automatic abilities. Bam, instantly, that's CL, right? That's an ascended CL, piece of cake, done. Because the auras are pretty, and then you give her some new auras that are like current power level auras, and you call it a day, right? Very easy to do.
Auras with mucho texto.
Creating an ascended ruler doesn't support old rulers. There are new ones. Arguably, if the ascension is for a ruler that like previously wasn't played, then like there's an argument to be made.
Rulers with their original form.
God.
That's an extension rule I want to see.
Yeah.
Well, let Allosaurus play with Allosaurus.
So many. I mean, he kind of is a time guy. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I want to nuance my answer here, because what the company has done is, like, for instance, when they made Tina and Alice tag together, they tagged the original Alice Girl of the Lake instead of the new ascended Alice Ally of the Fairies, right?
Right.
And so what that essentially did is they said, we're going to take the strictly worse version of this ruler and make it playable, which I don't know if I prefer that, but the Ascension thing always kind of seemed like we are just trying to make a strictly better version that is just going to make the original obsolete.
Yeah.
And there is something about that makes me feel a little icky.
Sure. Sure.
But
very fair.
So I don't know if I'm not like anti-Ascension. I would rather see like us, if we're going to ascend a ruler, I would say take a ruler, say we're gonna rename this card, but it's gonna be treated as that original card, but we're gonna take it in a completely different design direction, right?
Maybe.
I would almost want that. Right?
I think there's an element to me with ruler ascension that, like, I think ascension should be saved specifically for rulers that, because of inherent evolutions in game design, the original version cannot possibly find a place in current era FOW. Right? Like, at the time of Ascension, arguably, Fairy Alice, like, was kind of playable. Priscia was pretty dang good, and Allosaurus was arguably the only one I thought that actually legitimately needed an ascension, just because his original creation wasn't. But now we're like so many years removed from that. Like, in my opinion, no ruler from New Valhalla Saga, like no ruler from like New Valhalla forward could use an ascension. Like, none of those would need ascending, right? It would be like really, really old. Like, and also, would be a, no matter what we do for them main deck support wise, they still wouldn't be functional unless we ascend them. Like, last resort kind of choice, right? That's where I would put it. Is like, we're not just going to go, oh, we're going to support this ruler by ascending them. Like, I don't want that to be the brain space, because you're right, it is creating a brand new card, right? And that's not where I want to go. I want to be it as a, there's just no functional way. There's nothing that we could print in the main deck that complements the original ruler's text to the point where they would still be functional, like, as a choice, right? Like,
yeah,
I like, there's no amount of auras, there's no amount of graveyard protection that we could print now that would make CL usable. Within a world of so much multicolor, automatic cancel, grave hate, discard, things like uppercut treatment, like all of that stuff, there's nothing that you could print, I don't think, that wouldn't completely detract from CL's game plan to make the concept of CL a choice. She's like the prime example of a ruler that I think would need an ascension with how FOW has evolved to be usable. So, like, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Shion, I don't think Shion needs an Ascension. I think you could easily print new Shion support cards that take advantage of her mechanic that let her do her thing, right? Like, you could easily give her an extension rule or something else like that I think the original Shion could still be useful.
So I hear that
Or
argument.
5 drops.
Let her grab 5 drops.
I hear that argument.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, well then let's look at the way that Masterpiece 1 and Masterpiece 2 did that exact thing with all of the, like, quote-unquote unplayable rulers from those clusters, gave them new support around those cards without ascending them, and just made them better, right?
I will counter your counter with Stellar Princess Kaguya is still unplayable.
Stellar Princess Kaguya?
K2 received a whole bunch of support and was unplayable in current era power level, even when given a tag partner. As someone who's been doing the ruler rundown and going over all of Grim Cluster, including talking about Masterpiece stuff, there were Masterpiece rulers that even with their new cards and given tags still could not be played in current era FAO. Have you read Grimia?
Oh, the worst offender of this, I think, personally.
Okay, Grimia can't work in modern FAO?
Absolutely not. That even with the new cards they gave, because the stuff that's been printed, the other stuff that was printed was so good at countering anything that Grimia wanted to do that it just was not worth your time to try to play her. Like, she was jank at best. I think I rated her at a 3 out of 10, like, on the ruler rundown in the future. Like, yeah, so Alejandra even said, in fact, the Kaguya support was not written properly, as instead of her being her support, it became support of Seer. Exactly. Like, all of the Seer support just went to K1. K2, even with all the new support, unplayable. Like, cannot use her like in current era FAO. That card is a card that says, put back in binder, look pretty. Like, she just doesn't get anything.
Sure, okay.
Read Demon's Blood. Yeah, we need whole new rulers.
Sure. Okay, fine. I have counterpoints, but I take it at value, because those are some pretty egregious examples.
Yeah. I mean, you want to look at Masterpiece 2? We can talk about Masterpiece 2.
I think Masterpiece 2 did a better job.
Sure. That's fair. Hold on 1 sec.
One could argue too good of a job.
Hold on. We're gonna talk about this.
For some rulers.
Hold on. I'm gonna look at this. I'm gonna look at it real quick, because I
think specifically of Flute. Flute was an unplayable ruler when she first came out, and she became playable. I will say that. And in Paradox, she had some stuff going on. K4 unplayable. Certainly better now. A lot better now.
Yeah, I think Masterpiece 2 Masterpiece 2 did a much better job. So some of them are certainly, like, harder to play competitively. Like, I'd argue that, like, Dark Tree is, like, pretty close to unplayable, even with the new support. In terms of any competitive success, like any possible competitive success, it is a jank deck at its core that is a lot easier to play around than it ever was before. I'm looking at all of them right now. The Luminaries got support, Prisya got support, Alhamat kind of in the same boat. Don't get me wrong, I like Alhamat, but, like, Crossing Point was really the only thing that deck can really do, and Crossing Point kind of quickly got countered pretty hard. Lulu is a deck that had some kind of, like, Lulu showed some promise, Milliam showed some promise, Umir is playable, Mikage I think could have found some space, but like people maybe just needed to dig into them a little bit more. Wukong's a similar kind of vibe where like you could play them. They weren't necessarily competitively successful, but you could still play them. But like,
I mean, like going from unplayable to playable.
Yes,
right,
for sure. Masterpiece 2 did that much better.
That's the bar.
Yeah, there were. I think I just wanted to point out that like it is very possible to give something new power level support in the main deck, but because of the pure limitations and the text of the old ruler, doing so does nothing. And again, I think the main examples there are like K2. I think there were some other Grimia, like what is it? Like even with giving them a tag partner and new main deck support, it's like no.
The strategy will just never function.
Exactly. Like the core idea, the core identity of the ruler from back when it was created to now just doesn't mesh to current power level VOW design space. So you have to ascend them to kind of rework their concept to then bring them into now. So which I think would what you would do for Ascension.
I am 80% convinced.
I'll take it.
80%. I'm 80% convinced.
The real testament is if they can make Pandora with golems playable for Masterpiece 3, very easily make mobilize and activate ability that can be used at any time. We've solved the problem. We've solved it.
We did it.
We did it, right?
Well, I don't know if we solved the problem, but we made the problem less of a problem.
You made the problem less of a problem. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think the heart of this conversation leads to we have a little bit of time left. It's pretty late, but
yeah.
I think the spirit is that like the exciting part of this conversation is that whatever our approaches are, the history of FOW, the diversity of FOW's history in terms of the different play styles that have been approached, makes having this kind of conversation exciting, which I think plays into the creation of things like ATD and Masterpiece. There is a lot of creative space. There is a lot of excitement. There's a lot of player connection to certain rulers and archetypes and ideas that I think really speaks to that it's worth exploring, which is why I'm glad the company is doing these Masterpieces and ATDs, and I want them to continue to do it. So that's the exciting part there. We have one little tiny element here that could turn into a longer element, but I do want to hit this one because I think it's a good question. And this is more for Mike. What lessons do we wish FOW would consider from other card games? What lessons learned or things that have been solved or presented by other card games that we wish FOW could learn from?
Text. that's one. That's one.
Counterpoint. Have you seen Yu-Gi-Oh cards?
Okay, Yu-Gi-Oh's not a game that anybody should be taking lessons from. Let's be very real.
That's fair.
All right, perfect. As long as we're established.
Fair
Here.
point. Fair point.
No, I think the big thing with FOW is that. So, all right. FOW is a difficult game to say this for because FOW is intrinsically very synergy heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's synergy heavy based off the ruler. And it has been since Lapis Cluster, I would say. For Lapis Cluster, it was very much like main deck cards were the main source of your power. And you can see that with the fact that Reflect Frame was good in like 5 different shells that just used all the good cards in a pile.
Sure.
That normally had one specific thing that they're trying to do. The big thing I want to see is obviously keep some ruler to card synergy, but make it less the word's parasitic that I'm looking for. Oh, there's a lot of cards that are very parasitic in nature based off of how like you need to be playing this ruler to make this card even remotely playable in some cases.
Sure.
Or like they do a lot of their own, but only if you have this ruler. I want to see rulers that have a little bit more open design space to them.
Sure.
Maybe something that's like, an intrinsic mechanic that's like, okay, cool. If you have this, some of your cards get powered up, but they still have to play off each other. I do not like cards that if you just play the card and the card just sits on the board or enters the field and has an enters the field trigger, it just does something and the thing is just going to put you miles ahead of where you need to be.
Sure.
I want to see cards that just do something on their own. They do something when your ruler interacts with their main mechanic, and they do something when they're paired up with X, Y, and Z cards from your hand that also have some kind of intrinsic value from that ruler. You need the trifecta to have a properly balanced and a properly enjoyable game experience.
Sure. I think for me, the lesson that I would love for FOW to learn or would love for FOW to apply is coming from the lessons of seeing the fresh games coming into the TCG market now. Is most of the games coming out now have a intro simplicity to them, like the low skill floor to get into the game with a potential for high skill ceiling, right? But it's also possible to play a rewarding game at the low skill floor. If you there's, I guess I should say this: low skill ceiling or low skill floor with a great potential for depth. That's the lesson that I think I would love to see FOW apply more. And arguably, I do think that there's a little bit of that in the design of Evil Cluster. I think that if you take Evil Cluster on its foot, like on its face, like purely in the context of just Evil Cluster, there does feel like it's like low skill floor, a little bit of complexity because it's FOW and it's a Japanese card game, but like a great deal of possible depth to explore within the context of Evil Cluster. But Evil Cluster by itself, I think, is pretty low skill floor, at least so far with the first set. But I think to follow up on that, I think I would love to see the releases of products with that intent in mind. So I would love to see like the return of a Vingolf, right?
Yes.
Vingolfs were beautiful intro-level products where they came in with a preconceived notion of preconceived built decks for a low skill floor entry point that then gave you the tools out of the box to then start to dip your toes into the depth of FOW. And I think starter decks are great. I think that's great. Excellent point. I do think I wish that FOW would learn that like middle point market product design, and we might see something more like that come back. Like that's the lesson that I would want to see.
Yeah. You mind if I give a quick example for my lessons for FOW to learn?
Sure.
Based off of my own card game that I have been designing.
Oh,
it's almost like we asked this question with that reflection in mind. Weird.
The parentheses here in this question from him says, parentheses, to help Mike jump in more, close parentheses. Crazy.
So, very importantly, Quintusite takes a lot of elements that are based off of FOW, just because I do intrinsically love FOW's mechanics, and I like using them for expanding upon in my own way. So, there are rulers in the game, of course, because, what game that is worth the salt doesn't have some kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's one ruler that at the start of every turn, you're allowed to look at the top card of your deck and you may remove that card from the game. Very simple. Straightforward. Not anything that affects gameplay, but gives you a little bit of choice and options. There's a card that is on its face level 1 red and 4 for a 10/10 flyer that costs 2 less for every card that has been removed from the top of a player's deck this turn. So, on its own, mediocre stats. Hit once with your ruler, good stats. Then, you have other cards that will sit on the board. Like at this 2-cost card at the start of every turn, you may erase the top card of your deck, erases from the game, in my game, whatever. You may play it this turn. So, not only do you have cards that will let you kind of like look at the top card of your deck, move things around that way, but if you pair that card, and play that card that costs 2 less, suddenly you have the 1 mana 10/10 flyer that you flavor it up with. There you go.
There you go.
And that's the kind of thing I want to see. Like the card should not hold up on its own when two things are present. It shouldn't hold up on its own when two things are present. The three together give the full access to the card.
Yeah.
That's the shit I like to see.
For sure.
Sure. So like the kind of like encouraging the playing of like open-ended cards that when they work together and you find the synergy on your own, like that's how like the strategy unfolds. And so there's like something unique to that because like, oh, I found that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think because like I've been listening to Mike over the last like I don't know how many podcasts, but like over
episode
like
218. We're on episode
we're at
218
at this point. So like what I've learned about what Mike likes about his design space is in older FOW that was much more the case where parasitic or reliant design wasn't as much present. It wasn't
I've
like
got a great example here. Necrolance is a deck that would not have existed without the exact combination of Lancelot, Reflect Refrain, and Necromancy all together.
Yeah, Necromancy and Lord, exactly. Yeah,
would not have happened without it.
Yeah, that like cute little interaction. Like they weren't intended to operate together, but they just had like
found it because it was cool.
Cute little synergy. Yeah, I mean it's totally there.
That's the design space I love.
Yeah, I do think that there's an element there that looking at classic FOW versus FOW now, I do think that lesson is hard to balance because I think game design has shifted from being more like Magic to being more like Yu-Gi-Oh in terms of pacing and tempo.
Correct.
So creating those neat synergies, the explosive potential of those synergy elements is significantly higher nowadays than it was in old school FOW, right?
100% correct.
Because there's certainly been a more of a lean into the Japanese style card game vibe over this course of the past 10 years, which to their credit is why the combination ban list is such a great tool, because it allows for that like precision in that element. But that's a tough balance to have, right? Like the idea of back in the day, like I think a great example counterpoint of like how easy it is for something to be discovered like that just ends up being too much is Falchion plus Spirit of Calmness. Right? Like Spirit of Calmness was like a 3-year-old card. Falchion got released and suddenly we had wouldn't have thought to look back at old Reflect and Refrain Alice Origins cards, but you found it, and then suddenly you had a 2-card interaction that was instant speed draw your deck.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the potential explosiveness of those kinds of interactions you just gotta be really careful with. So it's a tough balance. Like I give I Spy credit because they are in many ways playing with a space of card design historically plus now that couldn't have volatility to it. Like that is it true of, but that's also true of any Japanese card game. Like they just have potential volatility. So I can commend I Spy because I do think that with the combination ban list and everything else, they're trying really hard to keep that in check, and I think in many ways they're being successful. They can't be perfect, but I think they're trying, and I gotta give that respect. So it's tricky. It's tricky.
I have a topical comment to give to the company. That's kind of the opposite of this question. Like, what has this company learned that other card games really need to learn? And it's the limitation of tie-in products.
I wonder what that's related to.
I can't imagine if we got like Powerpuff Girls Force of Will crossover. I cannot imagine if that was a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, but listen, Gendy Tarkovsky stuff would go kind of hard. I'm not
thanks.
gonna lie.
No
Like,
thanks.
if we got a Samurai Jack set,
No thanks.
I wouldn't
I'm good.
complain.
I'm good.
No, Aku as a ruler. Come, I would so play Aku as a ruler.
No,
Come
thank
on
you.
now.
No, that is the slipperiest of slopes, and once you squeeze the
It
toothpaste
really
out,
is.
you cannot put the toothpaste back in the
Also,
tube.
Pat does not
I
have the budget to be pulling these IPs, man.
I
Come
do
on,
not.
Wizards
I
of the
do
Coast is
not.
literally owned by Hasbro.
Yeah, I do think that, like, you know, I think that FAO is learning
Ugh.
lessons. I think that FAO is trying in many ways. I think there are lessons to be learned, but I also think FAO is doing things that other companies could stand to learn from. I think a big example is, you know, some of the lessons I think are difficult for them to even apply just because of the size of our game, right? Like, the idea of let's make a Vin Golf is like a great idea, but like, can they make a Vin Golf, right? And so in many ways, I think it's important. I still think it's important to have these conversations because it's, you know, you can never stop brainstorming and trying to come up with good things. But I also think it's important to recognize that being a tier 2 size card game where we are, the company has to be mindful of where they can try to expand. And I think that they have publicly kind of made that comment. I think Rio's last video where he was like, these are all interesting ideas, we're not going to push ourselves too hard on it, I think shows a self-awareness that I really respect out of iSpy. So it's good to have these conversations, but I think it's also good for us in the community to be mindful. It was all good.
Yeah.
And then I think that's it for us for tonight. Great conversations. Just for housekeeping notes for tonight or for this week. Tomorrow will be the first week of Guess the Rework. Wednesday, you will see the feature match between Pirate Ship Rush Melgis versus Carlina Dante. Thursday, you will see, as a member, the All-Nighter for Symphony Stun. Deck profiles on Friday and Saturday. And then every day you can catch a new ruler roundup in your shorts feed. So lots of videos coming out this week. It's pretty good stuff. But great conversations tonight. Thank you all so much for being here. And until next time, this has been myself, DMO73, and I've been joined, as always, by Paul Reisman.
That's me.
And Mike Rance.
It me.
Class dismissed, everybody. Have a great night.